Hi. I will attempt to try and explain um, some ways or some tips that I can give in terms of learning Bootstrap or CSS, or basically anything that you want to learn. But this one will be focused on Bootstrap. I hope this video won't be long because I really do talk a lot. But yeah, I will start my VS Code. So I created this folder here, bootstrap demo, and I have some few files. I have two images, but I'm using only one. I have some style CSS and index.js, but let's open it on code, VS Code, and see how it looks like. Enlarge this. So on the index HTML, I just have a basic HTML structure. Sure you're familiar to this structure. Just importing some script directly from their CDN online instead of just downloading the whole bootstrap. Also the CSS, so the JavaScript and the CSS here. And then I created this code just to explain what I want to explain, but let's see what it looks like now. So I'm just gonna go live, and then it's gonna open this web browser. So I have this form which takes in an email and a text area, just basic, you know. But the one thing that I want to point out with Bootstrap is that at the end of the day, close this, it's just a CSS file that you are working with. That's all. It's just a CSS file and a JavaScript file. If you understand these two languages, then you'd be fine. CSS, it's a cascading styling language or whatever, and JavaScript is a JavaScript language. You know that. So with HTML, you know that there are tags or something called elements which define how things should be displayed on the web browser, and then you have the CSS which defines the style or the look and the feel of how those things that you are displaying should be appearing on the web browser. So at the end of the day, the CSS inside the Bootstrap library is just a bunch of classes that the Bootstrap team made, right? So you are just calling classes at the end of the day. Like you see here, you are calling a container empty. I had to use this container empty, which starts here and ends here, because if I did not use that, like let me show you. If I just remove this class, how it looks like. You will see once it refreshes, everything just touches the edge of the screen of it. It doesn't look nice. So I had to use this class, which is a container MD. And if you want other containers, I'm sure there's LG, which stands for large. So this is what I'm trying to explain is that the CSS is just the Bootstrap CSS is just a bunch of classes that the Bootstrap guys made. For instance, if we just go to this website, to this link here, you'll see that we are actually just getting the file. Where's my browser? And then paste this link that we are pulling. You see that this is a huge CSS file. The one thing that will help you understand what's happening here is understanding the way they name their CSS classes. Like, you know that your own classes start with a dot, and then when you concatenate classes, you add another dot. So it's just a bunch of classes. Understanding the way they name their classes will help you work better with with Bootstrap. Like for instance, as I said here, there's LG, there's SM, which is for small. Obviously this is a container, so you won't really see any difference. But if you do something like let's say this, so this div here is the email one, right? And you're calling the class MB. If you play around with the numbers, you'll see that something will change. Let me use maybe say 8. I don't know all of the numbers that they have. It seems like nothing is changing, but something is changing. So I think 3 was there. And it's the same for every element. You just need to understand the naming convention that they use in their classes. Here they use a label, and then they use this class form label. What they did in this class, they defined how the label should look like. So the nice cornered edges here that HTML, basic HTML does not have, the lighting of the blue whenever you click on it, the name inside, it goes here on the placeholder, obviously. And then also it's the same thing with the input. You define a class, which is a form control, and this is your input. It has the same thing, the blue thing. And it means that you can also define your own structure or way of how you want it to look like. So I added my own style here, of which is something you can do. I can either move this to a CSS file and use that class that I would write on a CSS file here, meaning it's possible to add more than 2 classes in one class attribute on an HTML element or tag, right? So I defined margin top because when I did not have this, the container from Bootstrap does not define the margin at the top. You see, it moved it to the top now. It just goes up there, of which it's not a good styling thing. Yeah, I just need to remove this one. But now when I put it back, you see there's nice tabbing. So what I can say is that at the end of the day, you can have a lot of libraries. There's a lot of nice ones. I can actually just show you this. If I say CSS libraries and say list, you would go crazy, because there's even ones that can do nice things better than CSS. But Bootstrap obviously is the most popular and the most used, so, and it's better supported. But this site is actually nice because it shows you the pros, the cons, and then there's foundation. It just depends on what you really want to do. But yeah, I just wanted to explain those few things to say, at the end of the day, it's a CSS file with a certain naming conventions for their class names. If you've written classes in CSS, a class is something as simple as, where's my CSS, which is empty. Let's say maybe you want to create a hero component where you'll just put a padding left or whatever, and then define the size of that padding. That's just all. Or let's actually use this to do that margin top. But yeah, I will have to now link this off, which is just daunting. I'm lazy. But yeah, so you would go back here and lazy me, copy this and paste here, and go here, and then instead of using this CDN, we'd use my own thing that is here, which is style.css, and then I don't need these encryptions because I'm not getting anything from the internet. It's from my file. And then when I come here now, instead of using this style, let's just see if it moves away. Yes, it does. And then here I would now say use from there, use hero, and then it should go back. So that it went back. So when I do my CSS, I name it very simple because I'm just doing a hero component. I know what a hero component is, but because the Bootstrap guys are kind of making this for the whole world, you will realize that with most of their naming convention, they are more descriptive. It's a card, image, top. It kind of explains that it's a card that takes it's a style for the card, for the card's image, and I think the top is something to have to do with the top styling of it, or maybe it goes to the top, of which I think, yes, I think it goes to the top. And I can actually show you that with the next component that I have commented out here. If I just remove this comment, so you'll see with this one, it's a card mp3, and then they also define their own styling here, max width. If you come here, you'll see that this is the card, and this is the image I'm using, and then here they're kind of using their column classes, which kind of defines where things should be in terms of a grid component styling, because you can see that this is kind of a block, and then this is the second block, and on the second block you have this block, you have this block, and then you have this block. So it's kind of a grid, and here is where you define how large it should be. Like if we can change this, I don't know why it's not changing. Yeah, there we go. You see, when you change those numbers, you can actually create your own kind of look. And this is where it gets tricky, because now you have to cater for this on a mobile version if you want it to be on a mobile version, of which is a good thing to do. But yeah, I just wanted to show you that it's actually a descriptive way of naming their classes that you need to understand. Like for instance, card title. You already know that this is the title of the card, and because it's a class, it means they've already defined the size of the text. I'm not sure if they define the what do you call this, the font, but they define a lot of things. They define the margins around this card. Like it doesn't matter what tag you use, as long as you said card font, they already make it bold. Like look, if we say H2 here, you'd see that it grew, but it's still bold and more darker than this. And I hope I'm making sense. And then when you say card text, because it's already defined on their CTN, there's a styling for it. I don't know if I can explain anything beyond this. Other than that, you can just go to their documentation. If you go to Bootstrap, to get Bootstrap, and the latest documentation. Oh no, I want to go to the home page. Actually, go to the home page and click get started. It takes you here where you have all these things on the left. Getting started, you read the introduction, you understand how it's used, how it's being linked. You link it as if you were linking your own JavaScript or your own CSS, right? And then, or you can just download the package, of which I usually don't advise, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, you can download the package, because also the CTN kind of mentions the version you are using. So whether using the link or the package, the only difference here is that when you're pushing to Git now, you'll have to push also that package, because here you will reference it locally. So I don't really advise for that. But you can download it. Let's say maybe you don't have internet, you're working offline, then you can download the package, the source code, if you want to continue building on what they've done, and if you understand how they've made their classes, because I'm sure they are more advanced than what we understand. And I mean, at the end of the day, I can write Python code, you can write Python code, but the Python code you write is different from the Python code I write. That's I think originality. Yeah. So at the end of the day, you might face that if you want to build on what that. But yeah, you can always do it. I think this NPM and the yarn thing, it's when maybe you are not using just basic HTML, you are using things like React, Vue.js, Angular, where you don't really use CTNs. You have to add it as a package on your application as an NPM package. And yeah, that's where you will use that. And if you are using Ruby, this is how you add it, or use Composer. If you get NuGet, which is for .NET, you would use this. But yeah, this is a nice documentation because you get a lot of things pre-made for you if you just want to make a basic website or application. You get the content, you understand what reboot is, you learn with typography, which is about displaying your text and styling your text. You see, you can change a p tag to appear as an h1, of which is nice, and I don't know why you would do that because you already have h tags. But yeah, you can also use small and class muted, which will actually make this look like unclickable thing. It's this something that you cannot click, of which they really do this a lot. If we can actually just show you just that, and then I think I'm done explaining this. I think on form controls now, check and radius, you will see the ones that are disabled. You hear it's not clickable, but when you come to this one, I think you can click this one, you see. So it's just a matter of styling. You can style this and also use JavaScript to kind of make it not clickable. Like you cannot click it because a checkbox normally has an attribute where you can say, you can check if it's clicked on the CSS and on the HTML. It's just fun. It's just fun. I don't know if I've left out anything, but yeah, I think that's 16 minutes of explaining this. I'm just gonna stop here and share the links to you.